Now that the extended beta is wrapping up, let's go through some feedback and do some final Vanguard thoughts for now. I'll start by going through anything I took a note of while playing over the week. Like one thing that I'm sure they're working on, but continuing from the alpha, still seeing a fair number of enemy nameplate issues, giving people away inappropriately, like through walls. You can understand where it's coming from when we're talking destructible cover with lots of little holes, but there were some other problem spots I ran into that were more of a head scratcher, like off to the side here in Red Star. Sorry man, it's just not fair. And like the base of this hollow tower in Champion Hill was consistently transparent. There's no taking each other by surprise around that thing. Even High Alert knows I can be seen through it. I should have listened. High Alert's low-key a god tier perk for Champion Hill. Well, there are more ambiguous situations too, like threw this gas grenade into a dark room. Not a wall, but there was zero chance of having seen that person without the red dot giveaway. You could also argue for the red dot in that case to make up for what can be questionable visibility sometimes. Although when I felt that way, it was often me not knowing where to look, like that being the first time I was playing that map. But maybe there's still some of the bright area looking into a dark room hard to see people issue. Not like Modern Warfare beta levels. I didn't find it coming into play a ton, but I'll always welcome more visibility. Seems like that's going to be a constant thing as environments and lighting effects keep getting more complex. Now, with that enemy red names thing, I assume that'll need some ongoing work. I'm sure it's not as simple as tweaking a setting. They'll probably have to go around identifying problem areas and maps, patching things up, especially some of those destructible walls. Can't trust them to hide you whatsoever. Always having some visibility concerns aside, the game looked good visually for me. People always have a wide range of thoughts on how it looked, but it was all good with me. I was on PC, but not a crazy one. Most of the settings turned down, and I thought it looked fine. I'll admit that I'm not that picky on graphics, though. Within reason, of course, I saw the truly disastrous, unplayable experience some Xbox players got at first. Or maybe it was only Series X, or if you tried to play 120Hz, just everything broken and glitchy, flashing, entire buildings, guns doing the spiky, spazzing out stuff that happened in PC Warzone at one point. Maybe worth the mention, even though it wasn't part of my personal experience. Yeah, I'm sure that was the reason for the beta extension being as long as it was. Oh well, if it wasn't already fully fixed in their first patch on it, I'm sure they'll get a handle on it. But pretty smooth experience for me personally. The worst I got was some attack dogs having the time of their life here. To touch a bit more on the Destructible map elements, how that's working out, I'm still mixed on what it brings to the gameplay. It is kind of cool to shoot out some squares of glass here and smash out part of a wall there, and they're all predetermined spots, of course, as we knew, but it can also feel over the top, being a minor nuisance at the start of the match and then being way too open by the end. Like, I was a big fan of the brightness of the Eagle's Nest map, and I thought the layout wasn't bad either, but I was pretty much always running around the outside. The inside of that building feels like all destructible windows and walls. A few minutes into the match, there are many angles to die from in there. It becomes absurd to try to run through the main room real fast. We'll have to see what they've got in the rest of their map roster, and also when they're remastering some of the World at War maps, where they choose to stick in some destructible stuff just for the sake of breaking it down again, like the good old inserting doors in places. I don't know, mixed on it. It's like a cool feature, but not always a welcome one. I may just get better at using it or playing around it. I'll move on to the minimap, which is in a weird state where it's hard to count on it for any information on enemies, and maybe that's how they want it. Thankfully it is there to see teammate positions, but like you need to have the radar perk to even have a chance at seeing people's red dots when they're firing, unless they're using a suppressor or subsonic ammo. Two ways for people to completely hide, plus Ghost being an early unlock to hide from radar and spy planes. Thankfully, it requires movement. But then finally, you got the counter spy plane to make all of this pointless, lasting the eternity of 65 seconds for just a 4-kill streak, completely blocking the map. And with no lock-on launchers, as far as I know, that's rough. It took a while to shoot them down with bullets as well, although I never had the dedicated anti-vehicle barrel on. But also, since you can only have one 4-kill streak, it kind of makes more sense to run the personal intel for 3 kills, and then the counter spy plane at 4, so not a lot of team UAVs going up, further hurting the map usefulness, and fair enough when it's just going to get blocked anyway. As far as adjusting all that, while I highly doubt it'll happen, I am in the camp of thinking radar just doesn't need to be a perk. Everyone can have that by default. It's not even that powerful, but I'd rather never have a jarring moment of not having the radar perk on, maybe needing to use one of the other ones, and thinking, why wasn't he a red dot when he was loudly firing there? It's already easy enough to hide with subsonic and suppressors. It doesn't seem like a big deal to bring back the classic map that the vast majority seems to prefer. I can't speak for the people who aren't voting whenever it gets polled on Reddit or Twitter, but I don't see it as bad for casuals. It just tends to be less info equals people more afraid to move type thing, more sitting in a corner. Why bother bringing up the minimap debate again? Not a huge thing to me, but it seems like a common complaint they could easily solve. And then secondly, toning down that counter spy plane to 45 or even 30 seconds seems like a clear choice. Why over a minute? Surely when more people have that unlocked, it could easily be kept up for the whole match, when anti-air tools also seem limited. Maybe they'll come up with a funky World War II themed SAM turret type of field upgrade, who knows. To touch on a few other assorted thoughts about the kill streaks, first of all, quickly, like I've said before, I do prefer these simple kill streaks over the persistent plus cooldown thing in Cold War, although I would prefer some form of classic score streak or point streak system to encourage and reward objective play as well. Oh well. With the spy plane, it was frustrating to not be able to call it in when your team already has one in the air. I don't think it was a broken feature in past games to be able to call in multiple for faster radar sweeping, or even the directional player arrows when you have 3 in the air. At the least though, please just let me call in the spy plane and add it to my team's queue of spy planes, or that might be wasteful in a round-based mode if they don't carry over. So it could also just clearly display when it can or can't be called in, so I don't have to keep trying to call it in or keep checking the radar, or, just allow calling in multiple. The care package, I only tested out briefly because it didn't go too well. Maybe that's why I didn't see anyone else use it the entire time I played. Unfortunately, it had its parachute removed since COD World War II, which means it lands with some momentum. It can be a little tricky. I went to test the accuracy of the drop, and yeah, totally expected that. Fair enough. This one I thought was pretty safe, though, pretty flat. No, goodbye. I suppose that's just a funny quirk of them, not a huge problem, but I would like to see some more weight added to them if no parachute, because even when landing away from any cliff sides, it did take a while to settle in place to let you actually pick it up. Could maybe make the collision box a bit more square as well. Not fun to be waiting for ages and maybe get killed because you still can't pick it up. Now, more of an actual problem I had, but I would think an easy fix. The glide bomb on PC was uncontrollable. Whether you moved the mouse fast or slow, it seemed hard-capped to not be able to steer very much at all. If you see me use glide bombs terribly, that is why. But yeah, I would hope that's an easy thing to tune. Just have to slide my mouse up to the objective. Yes!
We got 2, nice. I've yet to get a kill with
Change
that.
my DPI real quick before I call that in.
Let's move on. How about those pacing options? Tactical, assault, blitz. I've said how I liked the concept several times to allow people to pick how much action versus control they want to have. So I was a bit let down to see it revealed as only a preference. At least I assume it'll work the same for launch, not just a beta thing, where unless it's a featured playlist of some kind, you can't say, only ever give me blitz matches. It just takes your preference into consideration, and presumably tries to look for those matches first, but it might give you something else. I do totally understand it not being a strict selection, because that would cut the matchmaking pool in thirds. Some people will select no preference to fill in the gaps and hopefully get the best connection they can faster, but I get it. Might not be great for matchmaking. Should have seen that coming. All I know is it was a bad feeling the first time they unlocked the quick play filter and I selected blitz to literally get tactical and assault the first 2 games. So I wish there were a setting I could enable where I would acknowledge it may affect my matchmaking times and it would strengthen my preference so that if I choose blitz, it'll try real hard for that and maybe I end up with assault, but never tactical. I should be able to tell the game, look, I really don't want to play a tactical red star match. So much so that I would rather leave if you ignore my request and throw me into that anyway. So how about we skip that step and I'll wait patiently until what I was hoping to play opens up. Likewise, if you want tactical and you think blitz is stupid chaos, you hate it, you shouldn't be forced into it. I think we could both settle with the middle ground assault, but it's a crappy feeling to be ignored and get the opposite of what you asked for. Yes, I'll have the steak. Ah, very good, sir. Here's your bowl of cereal. It's like, no, why'd you even ask then? It's not actually a huge issue, but I would like to have more control over the matches I get into. I don't know if that's a feasible suggestion, because people have asked for ages to allow us to opt into slower matchmaking to get a lower latency, better connection. Like, hey, I'm willing to wait for a quality match to be found. Please don't throw me into garbage. And that usually isn't an option. But the concept is still good to me. It just sucks to be forcing people into blitz or tactical who may find those extremes either too annoying or boring. A tiny note I may as well mention, I'm hoping that the ability to ping for teammates is added to Champion Hill. Not that I even expect I'll be playing very much of that, but I was missing it whenever I was partied up in there. I would think maybe they already planned to, like they added the pinging feature to Gunfight, and I think that was a good thing. Then in Cold War you could just ping everywhere all the time. I never really found myself wanting it in regular multiplayer, but it seems like it would be nice for Champion Hill. Another bigger note to bring up, but I don't think it's valuable feedback or anything, had a fair number of very questionable spawns. This was a funny time. I spawned in that back corner twice along with enemies, and the enemies just kept spawning there, so I quickly caught on. I know that the data gathered from betas and having tons of people playing on the map is a big part of what can refine the spawns, but it does have me concerned that this is likely borrowing some amount of Modern Warfare's spawn logic. I know there have always been spawn traps and bad spawns, but I don't remember other CODs having such a frequent disregard for spawn safety. Having people spawning in view of enemies, even on larger maps, where there are undeniably other safe spots on the map that are a reasonable distance from action. I know determining every aspect of spawn safety must be very complex. I'll forgive getting hit by a nade or a guy coming around the corner 2 seconds later, but to the ignorant like me, it feels like enemies being directly next to you and looking at you should be step one of picking the spawn. What is going wrong that causes that to happen so much more now? Maybe I'm off base, but I really feel watching somebody pop into existence was a more rare occurrence in older games. Now, in fairness, I think not all, but most of my spawn complaints are related to patrol, where the spawns seemed rougher because it felt like there was clearly some form of squad spawning mechanic. Interestingly, the zoom-in spawn camera wasn't there in patrol, even before they removed it altogether. Maybe I missed when they explained squad spawning being a thing, but that was interesting. Often made for some bad spawning into death, which I at least felt I understood, because I felt like it was some kind of squad thing, but also not a great thing to have when you don't get to choose safety or a squad spawn to get right in the action. Anyway, hopefully things will be refined with more data. Keep in mind there are 12 other maps we haven't played on yet though. Those will need some refining too, I assume. Bottom line right now, I'm not expecting spawns to be any better than Modern Warfare's, so depending what you think of that may or may not be a problem for you. I mentioned a small thing that I love there though. They disabled the respawn camera, that wasted second of zooming into your location. I really don't like that. Maybe it fit in Modern Warfare's big ground war since you're choosing where to spawn, but I don't think it serves any purpose in the general multiplayer. It's a nice effect one time that gets old immediately, so I'm thrilled they straight up took it out that fast. I was gonna say that I hope they could remove it at least for blitz combat pacing, like they were willing to remove it for shoot the ship in Modern Warfare, I believe, but hell yeah, why not get back in the game fast in every game mode. So thank you for doing that. I will say they've made some good changes already if we're transitioning into some more positive stuff. I was away for the first beta week when they got some visual distortion cleaned up. The sound issues are a very common complaint, the strange muffled sound. I must really not be picky, and I don't use a headset much, but I don't find myself hating it. I know that's just because I don't use my sound enough though, because it is one of the biggest complaints out there for sure. Anyway, they said they're aware of that, but we won't know how they're able to revamp it until launch. They also reeled in the armor field upgrade. I think I called that one pretty well a couple videos ago. It went from a fast recharge to slow, and going from 150 HP to 50. What an insane state that started out in. I'm glad they made that change. It doesn't sound completely absurd anymore. Might still be annoying to run into, but that should be much more rare now. And as I expected, the Goliath RCXD tank thing is indeed not great, and I'm glad. I like how it's balanced. I'm sure it'll be fun for some people. It's pretty funny, but it handled terribly. It struggles with slight inclines sometimes, and kept doing a thing where it got stuck on thin air and would rear up. It was also very loud and easy to stay away from, I found. Thankfully, some people run into it anyway. Also, it seemed way too effective at shutting down the 9-kill streak Flame Knot. I don't have a solid enough impression of that streak, but as an initial impression, I don't think those guys really need to be marked on the map like a full-on juggernaut. It isn't like they have a death machine with infinite range. And if they go down to a little explosive damage in the back tank area, it does not seem great. Or maybe that's the one cheesy OP use of the Goliath. Speaking of cheese, the Gunsmith this year, for some reason, I'm liking what I've played with so far. Well, I kind of have a greater respect for the idea of needing to make trade-offs like the pick 10 of old. It is also kind of fun to slap on 10 attachments, as unrealistic as they may be. I think they feel more unique this year, like they had more time to flesh out some new ideas for attachments. They're not all just flat-out clones of each other, or at the least, there are a lot of them. I know it's just new to me right now, but it's been fun reading through the pros and cons of whatever I unlock. Very glad to see the detailed stats of the attachments return, but I said speaking of cheese, I guess what I meant is I see a lot of cheese potential potential with some of this. There are so many options and combos, and then there's the some attachments being way stronger than others that they talked about, like maybe the conversion mags and ammo types. The mags that let you really mess with damage and fire rate, you can basically give yourself stopping power or double tap in exchange for some other nerfs. And then the ammo types, several of them with no downside. Annoying stuff like frangible, nobody likes to be stunned for being shot in the legs. Yet for some reason, I don't find myself really caring about the cheese potential, because it's not just one or two things that are broken compared to everything else. I think there's a lot of things that seem busted. For some reason, I thought the auto-loading shotgun was a pump, because I guess I can't read, but I thought, oh, surely the revolving shotgun is the only semi-auto. Nope, this thing is even faster. It's the shotgun that looks like a modded controller, mag dump for free kill weapon. Kinda insane. But yeah, it doesn't bother me. So I want to make my bias clear here. I'm not taking the competitive integrity of the multiplayer very seriously at all. I respect if you do, and your opinion of this game may differ greatly from mine because of it. I'm not saying it's totally broken either. I'm sure they'll make efforts to balance as the year goes on, as always. There'll be tons of people giving them feedback on what needs to change, so I just don't think I need to be one of them. And I'm explaining my attitude towards the game. To me, it's COD pubs, it's just for fun. There's gonna be some nonsense, and I'm okay with it. I'm not correct to feel that way. I'm just saying I've stopped being bothered by any of the cheese potential there may be in this game. If I get killed by something nuts, I'll be using something nuts myself and have fun doing it. If something is found to be dumb OP, I'd rather make a joke about it than write an essay about why it needs to be removed this instant. It ain't that serious. I'll save the essays for progression. Oh wait, I forgot to mention how there are already all these orange dots everywhere. Can't track down all these guns. What's new? Where even is this? I don't have any new kill streaks. Great, another year of new item indicators. Wait a minute. You can clear the indicators in the beta? The game's amazing, 10 out of 10. I'm sure it helps that this HUD seems largely inherited straight from Modern Warfare, but that's fine. Like, I do want things to change game to game for it to feel different, for sure. Like, that's kind of been an issue with the seasonal challenge formula getting old, the cross-progression, resetting level thing spanning 3 years now, making it feel less like a new experience. But the menu doesn't have to be one of the new things. I don't need that to be built from the ground up every time and go through the same usability growing pains. So thank you for what the clear new item indicator represents. And here's another note I don't know where to throw. I'm kind of digging what I'm hearing from the soundtrack of this game. Not a big factor for nearly anybody when it comes to COD. I feel like I'm starting to bring up soundtracks as much as progression, but I like the upbeat menu theme, and there's been some super hype stuff in some of the trailers. Looking forward to hearing it in the campaign. Soundtracks are important to me. They invoke a feeling when you boot up the game, when you're sitting at the menu. It definitely plays a role in if I'm enjoying it or not. So, you might think because I listed a bunch of issues earlier that I hated the beta. No. While I noticed some stuff I think could be improved, it didn't actually have a big negative effect on my playtime. Overall, I enjoyed the beta gameplay. I've seen plenty of people not feeling it. I've seen plenty of people with very valid complaints. I can't give you the objective overview on the quality of the game. I can only speak to my own experience, and to me, it was COD gameplay, and it seemed solid enough. I can't judge the replayability of the game from the beta, because it isn't there yet to me. You know I'll be caring all about the progression stuff. All I can judge is the base gameplay, and I thought it felt fine. Maybe I'm really not in the mindset to whine about every little thing incessantly. I just think it's a game, it worked for me, I'm gonna have whatever fun there is to be had with it, but that does tie back into my not taking it very seriously bias I wanted to make clear, because you might, and that's totally valid. When it comes to the people thinking about buying the game, I see that question come up, of course, the should I? Is it worth it? Always hard to answer that, because everyone's different. I don't know you or what you find value in. All I can say is that if you've been unhappy with recent CODs and you're thinking you'll suddenly love this one, I don't think that's a good idea. That's not the angle to be coming at it from. It's still COD, man. You gotta be realistic. So maybe hold off, at least until it's on sale a month in and you have a complete picture of what the game is like. Aside from that, you just have to think about what value you would get from the game. For me, I'll have fun doing the campaign playthrough. I still have some friends into the zombies. I think that has plenty of potential. Don't know much about it yet. The Pacific map Warzone refresh might be interesting to get back into. It looks like a big breath of fresh air. And that also gives some motivation to want to do some grinding in the base game. And if there's something fun for me to go for in the multiplayer, That's a bonus. I've taken enough of a COD break at this point to want to be into a grind again, if they make it interesting, because the base gameplay is good enough to me. I could see having some fun going for the camo, if there isn't some huge, terrible, luck-based pain nonsense, conf launcher double kills using a launcher that is not meant to kill anybody, even in hardcore. I'm glad I didn't do that. So I'm interested to see what they do with those. No doubt gonna be a couple meme challenges that people hate. How much mounting is there? Let's see it. I definitely see doing the zombies camo again, if that's how it'll be working, especially now that they finally made good on their promise to allow zombies camos in Warzone. It only took 6 seasons of Cold War. In a perfect world, there'd be an ultimate combined camo for earning the top camo in both MP and zombies. That would be a fun reason to go for both. It's always about the ultimate combined mastery, because you can't show off both camos at once. You know the story of what I'd love to see to keep me interested. Long-term ultimate mastery, give me a reason to use everything, every equipment, field upgrade, perk, to earn something big, something final. It would be fun to care about getting 100 Goliath kills, because I'm never going to use it otherwise. And if you want me to care about seasonal stuff, it's got to be part of a larger whole. I don't want to collect meaningless calling cards and charms and emblems that I'll never use or see again. I want to work towards one truly distinctive, meaningless calling card or charm or emblem. Or anything, really, doesn't matter. Looking at their beta guide blog again, where they listed stuff about XP, they redacted what's going to happen after getting to the max level, as in what type of prestige versus seasonal ranks it'll be. Then they also mentioned those couple newish things, the operator progression and clan progression. Both things with potential that I can't help but expect to be underutilized. No hero gear for maxing them all, no building up the clan headquarters and firing range. I'm assuming some basic level up tracks, which at least is something, and I'd love to be proven wrong. But yeah, you can tell my expectations for the type of grind I love are low, and that is the easiest assumption, that it'll follow the trend we've been on. And that's why I said, if they come out with something I'm really excited to go for and to make guides for, that's a bonus to me. I'd love to see it. It's not what I'm counting on. If there's no long-term thing and I lose interest in the multiplayer seasons, fair enough. Even a month or two of fun and continuing with the zombies in Warzone or doing something else is plenty of value to me. So like I said before, I can't objectively tell you the quality of the game. If you're using this to form your opinion on it, I implore you to check out other people's thoughts, or ideally, hopefully you hopped on to play it yourself at some point in that extended beta, because everyone has their biases, whether it be loving everything unconditionally or trashing everything because they're sick of COD. For me, well, I've taken a decent break from the current COD at this point, but I know my COD thoughts are never going to be that complete or representative of what you may care about, since I care so much about progression. It's not like I've ever cared about my COD KD. I can put up with plenty of gameplay nonsense and not be too bothered if I have something I think is fun to work towards. And if that's in this game, I think I could enjoy it quite a bit. If not, I'll stick to enjoying those other parts of it I mentioned. That's all for Vanguard for now. I'll probably check in next when they release some kind of info on those progression systems, or maybe the zombies. Feel free to share how you felt about the beta below, of course. Most importantly, you can go be respectfully sharing any feedback you have for the team to help improve the game. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.